Hello, welcome back to the show. I am your host, Dr. Alex Swenson Ridley. I am just excited to be here with you today. I am coming off of, I announced towards the end of 2022 that I was writing a new book called Selfless Syndrome: The Root Cause of Exhaustion, Anxiety, and Hormonal Chaos in High Achieving Women. And I did it. I did the thing. I finished the book over this past weekend from when I'm recording this, and the book is live and currently in digital formats. Hopefully, by the time this thing drops, it will be live as a paperback version on Amazon as well. But I will put links to it in the show notes. And I just wanted to share because I'm like really excited about this. I've been dreaming of this book for a couple of years. I wrote a book a couple of years ago in 2019, and it was okay. It wasn't my book. I will say I was not really in a place where I developed a lot of my own thoughts and leadership and things that I really bring to the table in terms of how we approach our health and our well-being and our hormones and all of those things. And this book is really the culmination of what's like the last decade of my life and my journey and the things I've learned and putting it all together in combining all of my millions of different degrees and all the things and the pieces that I've put together to really formulate a process where we get to get our energy back and feel like ourselves again and do all that in a way that's sustainable and not just, about a diet or some exercise or some supplements. Are all those tools great? Yes. But do we need something different and something more? Yes, absolutely. And that's what this book is all about. And inside of that, I wanted to share kind of some of the things that have come up for me in life and just this week as well in writing about it. I really have boiled it down to like the women that I work with, we tend to work on three areas of life because those are the things that ultimately are impacting our health and either make or break whether we're going to really achieve this thing called balance between our professional and personal lives. And that's something I do believe in and I believe is completely attainable. And it requires some level of negotiation on our part, with ourselves, with our family, with the things that we are passionate about and the things that really matter. And some of those negotiations can be kind of big things. And the areas where I tend to see, a lot of work need to happen in order to get to the other side where we have the health and the body and the vitality that we really want are big things like relationships. I do a lot of work on hormones and body image and our relationship to ourselves and to food and some of these big things where we're really kind of screwed up these days thanks to culture and society and all of the things that we've grown up with. But it's also our relationships to other people, and it's also our career. And, I've shared about all of these things in some shape or form of one way or another in some way over the years that I've been hosting this show, but it's never really been kind of like brought together for me. I've always felt like they were separate entities in some ways. And really it's all part of the holistic cohesiveness that is who we are in the world and what we're up to. All of these things are a part of that. And we tend to, even me and more of my holistic approach was compartmentalizing because that's what the world says that we're supposed to do, right? And so like I can't coach on career stuff when I'm a health coach. Like actually, who the hell says not? Right? Like I totally can and do, not from a perspective of like we're gonna, fix your career or anything like that, but in how our career impacts and shapes our health, how our relationships impacts and shapes our health, our well-being, and our ability to achieve what I call hormonal harmony versus the hormonal chaos that we're always living in. And hormonal chaos is driven by selfless syndrome and by all of the things that we talk about on this show. This is actually not at all what I was planning to talk about today, but today's one of those days where I'm just showing up and we're going to see what comes out. So hopefully you get something out of this musings of Dr. Alex on this Wednesday when I'm recording this. So the book, very exciting. I'm very excited about it. And the other piece that I wanted to, talk about, because the last chapter that I wrote was around careers and career shifts, because I have had a lot of clients actually recently decide to take the leap and jump. They submitted letters of resignation or they've enrolled in programs to become certified as executive coaches, planning their post-corporate career and path, which involves launching their own business. Others have just fully, like, pivoted out of something into something else or gotten, in my own case, it's, like, really gotten clear on the business that I'm building and creating now and really stepping into a new identity as a coach and mentor where I had been hiding behind a lot of education and pedigree and, feeling like I needed all these certifications and things behind my name to really just like I'm enough, right? That was my big realization last year is like, I am enough and you are too. And, you know, there's so many little things that we get hung up on or that hold us back. And a lot of it has to do with kind of this patriarchal programming that we live in. For whatever reason, this week I've just been surrounded and inundated as I've been finishing my book and writing about some of these things and being in the masterminds and the groups of women that I hang out in, especially in the business world. Like we've all been talking about patriarchy for some reason and how patriarchy really impacts us without us necessarily realizing it. And I think I've shared some of this on the show just in recognizing how traumatic my first career was as a chiropractor. I mean, I that was a decade of my life and I built a business and I was in control of the thing, but I was very much stuck inside of the institution that is healthcare, that is, third party payer systems being reimbursed by insurance is what that is essentially. That was, what all the super high energy male chiropractic business coaches said that we were supposed to do and what practice was supposed to look like and the markers of what success really was. And I don't mean that like it was the truth, like all of this is BS, right? And like even so my point is even I was pulled into like building something that was very much a patriarchal construct where I was constantly having to prove myself as a woman and especially as a woman who looks younger than I actually am. And just, always feeling like I had to essentially show that I belonged, like prove that I was there. I tell a story in my book about, just the frustration of, especially at church for whatever reason, I would constantly, when people found out what I did, their next question was always, "Oh, who do you work for?" And I would get so frustrated because I'm like, I own like the biggest practice in town and one of the biggest chiropractic practices in the country. But that's not like the initial response that anyone has to a woman who's young, like in her early 30s. And, the automatic assumption is like, oh, you work for somebody, or, oh, are you actually practicing? Because, I had a baby and all of that. And it gets so frustrating, but, it's also unconscious. Like a lot of this programming is just stuff that we automatically go to and we automatically do, right? And so I really challenge you to look at, especially if maybe you're not feeling completely fulfilled in whatever job or career you're in, or you've recognized that the stress is probably going to kill you because it's the thing that, throws you off of whatever your plans are for self-care and for actually healing and doing things that you need for yourself. If your job and your career is the thing that constantly is, the problem, we'll put it that way, or what takes you off your game more or less because of the demands of that. Like, you wanna start asking yourself all of these questions, what constructs have you bought into? What is really driving you? What do you want? And then be okay asking for that and demanding that. I think one of the most exciting things that I'm kind of watching that shifting in our culture as a society, there was a huge mass exodus of women from corporate America in 2021. I don't know if everybody who listens to the show is necessarily aware of this. And I think it's bled over into, I know we have listeners around the world, so it's bled into some other places too. But women have just reached a point where we are fed up. There were other things that were difficult, like our kids not being in school and, the whole work from home thing, like all of this created some change. But I think it also prompted a lot of people to be like, why am I doing what I'm doing? what what how is this actually serving my life and my soul? And we've really shifted beyond like my parents generation, they're in their 70s, of you work one job for 30 or 35 years and then you retire. We've really moved beyond that, and I think people are really showing up and demanding more from their experience of what we spend a significant part of our day doing, i.e. working. um, and really looking at like, are you just there because you're tied to the paycheck? Is there more that you're passionate about? And, are you really being pulled and fulfilled in all ways through what you're currently doing? And if you're not, to be honest with yourself about that and to really sit in what would need to change in order for you to get there. And it might mean leaving the job. It might mean a career shift. It might mean going back to school. It might mean something big and scary and, all the things. But until we're actually willing to slow down long enough to look at that, confront that, the energy that we spend in having to show up and be, trapped in something that is not really serving us mentally, emotionally, physically, all the ways, that's going to stay stuck there, and it's going to be really hard to actually fully heal and to create the life and have the body and the health and all the things that I know you want to have by showing up and listening to the show. And I'll just share, in watching my clients go through some of these hard things, right? Like I have had clients end marriages, and I have had clients choose to stay in marriages, and I have had clients change careers, like a lot of them. That's become one of the, like, big results that I get from my program is re reconnecting to, or maybe connecting to for the first time, what your true passion and purpose is. And then the thing that separates those who like really truly experience almost those miraculous healing things where, like the weight just falls off and their hormones are suddenly normal on lab tests and all of that. Like it doesn't happen, overnight necessarily, but the ones who have the courage to really sit in the uncomfortable and be willing to look at what they've been tolerating and decide what they're not going to put up with anymore in terms of their life and their own integrity and all of that, they're the ones who have more success. I'm not saying it's not possible to get pretty far without it, but the ones who really truly get all the way are the ones who are willing to jump and willing to lead. So with all that, I think I'll leave you with my deep thoughts. My book, my new book, helps walk you through this process and like how you get there, and asks you a lot of deep questions and gives you things to ponder, and really brings together, in an integrative way. Like, I've really embraced the whole integrative approach to our health and also our lives, but will help you navigate quite a bit of that. So the links are in the show notes, and I'm just curious. I would love to hear from you. I'm reachable by email, and I'm most active on LinkedIn and Facebook. So just reach out to me and let me know, what part of this conversation speaks to you. Where are you feeling stuck? Where do you see maybe you're caught in this patriarchal system and society and programming? And that's not to say like it's all, patriarchy is all anti-women. Men are stuck within this model as well. We have to be willing to look at ourselves though, because we just stay stuck if we aren't, willing to really make a stand and then demand like what we do want, and be okay with actually creating that. We don't have to do what everybody else says. Like this is something I'm really taking on and learning and embracing in my business this year, is like, especially being in the online world, I've been looking for the external input of like, okay, what things work? Like what do I need to do? What am I supposed to do? What do I have to do? And, right now I'm in the place of just throwing all of that out the window and being like, "What feels good, and what do I actually wanna create, and what do I wanna show up for, and how do I wanna show up?" And so that's what I'm gonna do. And, the podcast is something that will never go away because this is just my baby, and I absolutely love it. So I'm glad that you're here with me. So with that, links for the book is called Selfless Syndrome: The Root Cause of Exhaustion, Anxiety, and Hormonal Chaos in High Achieving Women. You can find it on Amazon and also on our website, emergentwomencoaching.com. Hopefully, the paperback version will be ready to go by the time this goes live. But right now, I know that the digital versions, both in Kindle and then as an ebook, are available. So, with that, we will see you all next week.